You've heard of the Avengers, X-Men, Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe you've even heard of Alpha Flight, that superhero team that fights crime in Canada. But have you ever heard of the Eternals? Chances are you probably haven't, even if you are a well-versed comic book reader. But fret not, this video will uncover the mystery of Jack Kirby's The Eternals. Welcome to Facts of Fiction, presented by Art Badger. If you enjoy this and other videos we put up, hit, smash, or punch that like button and subscribe if you super like it.
The Eternals are a race of immortal aliens. I play Icarus, who is the sexiest of the animals.
The Eternals were created by Jack Kirby in 1976, who was returning to Marvel after a stint with DC in which he created the New Gods, Forever People, and Mr. Miracle, all relating to each other under the name The Fourth World. The themes of mythology, legends, magic, and the Bible carried over into his next creation, The Eternals. The original series ran for 19 issues, plus an annual issue. The series was abruptly canceled due to sales, which left many of his story points unresolved. Roy Thomas stepped in to tie up loose ends in his Thor book, Thor: The Eternal Saga. But let's talk about Jack Kirby's original 19-issue run, in which he offered answers to big questions like, are we alone in the universe? What is humankind's origin? What is our purpose? All very big and very daunting questions to tackle in a monthly serial, but honestly, it's nothing new to Kirby, so let's begin. Long ago, a group of gargantuan space gods came down to Earth and experimented with the most intelligent inhabitants, which at the time were our ape-like ancestors. These space gods are known as Celestials, and they tower higher than 2,000 feet and wear psychedelic armor. They are all-powerful, all-knowing, nearly omnipotent. The Celestials have actually been introduced in the MCU already, namely Eson, the Searcher, as well as Ego, the Living Planet, who wasn't originally a Celestial in the comics, but hey, at least they're warm to the idea of introducing these giant space gods. These ultra-powerful beings infused their cosmic DNA into the inhabitants of Earth through experiments, and created 3 evolutionary offshoots: the Deviants, Humans, and Eternals. The Deviants are a grotesque, genetically unpredictable creation who took to the depths and crevices of the Earth. Their lot was unstable and warlike, and the basis for many myths and legends revolving around demons and devils. The Deviants are also hyper-intelligent and known to create technologically advanced cities that rival Wakanda and even Asgard. Celestials' most tame and least interesting experiment are the humans. That's us. Kirby notes humanity as destroyers, but also having the knowledge and will to understand and practice peace. Humanity subdued the Earth and populated it with mediocrity. The Celestials' most treasured creation are this video's namesake, the Eternals, the children of the gods. Few in numbers, but immortal. The Eternals inherited special abilities from the Celestials and took to the highest points of the Earth, such as mountains, keeping their distance from humanity, but staying ever vigilant. The Eternals have been mistaken for ancient heroes written in epic poems, gods of nearly every culture, and they even have a few cameos in the Bible. So, the Eternals and Deviants have lived among humanity for years in relative secrecy, but have shaped many stories we now know as mythology. Jack Kirby's run on the Eternals begins when Icarus, spelt with a K, disguised as a cameraman named Ike Harris, tags along with father-daughter archaeologist duo Daniel and Margot Damien. They explore the ruins of an Incan temple, and after finding extraordinary evidence, Ike reveals himself to be an Eternal, hoping to guide the 4th host back to Earth from the vast reaches of space. What are hosts and why are there 4 of them? Well, a host is a large group of Celestials, each with a different reason for visiting a planet that they've already experimented on, such as Earth. The first host is when the Celestials visit a planet and do experiments on its highest life forms. The second host, also known as Wrath and Discipline, come to take a look at how their experiments have been doing. When they came back to Earth, they actually discovered that the Deviants had enslaved humanity. The Celestials, not cool with this, dropped a bomb. One bomb on the 8th continent of the world known as Lemuria. and decimated the planet, sunk Lemuria, and subdued the deviants. The third host is the most unclear, as it's simply described as the inspection and cultivation phase. Finally, the fourth host. It's the judgment of their experiment and the start of the Eternal Comics series. Once the Celestials arrive, Arishem, their judge, will stand motionless and contemplate for 50 years. Once a verdict has been reached, Arishem will either find the planet worthy or unworthy of the Celestials' gifts. If the planet is found unworthy, it will be destroyed. The rest of Kirby's run revolves around the Eternals making themselves known to humanity, fighting unearthed adversaries, and kind of just hanging around until something exciting happens. I mean, 50 years is a long time, right? But I guess not if you're an Eternal who can live forever. What makes the Eternals superheroes? Well, technically, they aren't. The name Eternals is their race, but they do have superpowers. And let me tell you, the Eternals are powerful. No, really, ridiculously powerful. The basic Eternal has immortality, enhanced reflexes, flight, teleportation, cosmic-infused DNA, superhuman strength, and matter manipulation. Having matter manipulation alone outclasses a majority of the current existing superhero pantheons. I mean, they also have complete mental control of their own molecular makeup and change that any way they see fit. Though their abilities seem limitless, there are a few trade-offs. Kirby, being the dynamic writer that he was, decided that each Eternal specializes in an aspect of their long list of powers. Examples of this are Icarus, preferring flight and cosmic beams from his hands and eyes, Makari, who prefers to run at lightning speeds, and Circe, who is a master at matter manipulation. Just because an Eternal emphasizes one power doesn't mean they can't use any of their other abilities. Their ultimate move is forming the Unimind. Zuras, the Prime Eternal, or the oldest, most powerful Eternal, calls all Eternals across the planet to fuse themselves into this really gross floating head that has multiple brows and no jaw. When all the Eternals become the Unimind, they transcend this plane and seek answers they couldn't discover on their own, which is all very badass. Except in Kirby's run, nothing really comes of the Unimind, and I think that is due to the early cancellation. So at this point, you're probably thinking that these Eternals can't lose, right? Well, you are right, and also kind of wrong. According to Kirby's run, an Eternal can't die, but as Circe says, they can live in pain, eternally. If something was strong enough to actually hurt an Eternal and maim or cripple them, then that Eternal could potentially live that way for the rest of their existence, which kind of sucks since they are basically gods. Now that we have a decent picture of what the powers and history of Eternals are, let's name a few of the prominent members in Kirby's run. Icarus is of the Polar Eternals, the lone fragment of warmth in a cold bunch who lack empathy. He is loyal and pretty straightforward, and definitely doesn't like pranks. He's selfless, confident, and brash. He leaps at problems rather than think through on how to solve them. Icarus is the poster child for the Eternal comic. I'd even consider him the main Eternal we follow in Kirby's run. Much of the early issues' narrative are based around Icarus and his friendship with archaeologist Margot Damien. Icarus prefers flight and cosmic energy blast, with a specialty in disintegrator rays that come out of his eyes. Hyper-intelligent and pragmatic, Ajax is fascinated by his creators and eager to serve. Most of Kirby's run had Ajax and archaeologist Dr. Daniel Damien study Celestials in an ancient Incan pyramid. Not a lot to go off of, actually, in the first 19 issues. Ajax has all the powers that are associated with Eternals, but he is the only one who seems to be able to communicate with the Celestials and understand their rituals. He's like the David Attenborough of documenting wild Celestials. Circe is the most fascinated by humans out of the Eternals. She has a tendency to gravitate towards humanity as she finds them interesting and chaotic. Anytime Circe isn't in combat against the Deviants, she's planning her next elaborate party. Circe excels at matter manipulation. Her reality-altering gifts have seemingly limitless possibilities. Circe even taught the Arthurian wizard Merlin the magic he's so famous for. Athena finds combat to be a sport. She enjoys plunging right into the fight and strides a confidence unparalleled. She is, after all, the daughter of Zuras, the oldest Eternal, well, at least in Jack Kirby's run. She is a natural leader and has a heart full of compassion. This compassion has led her to have a relationship with the deviant general, Crow. She also has on multiple occasions offered protection for misunderstood deviants who are to be killed or exiled. And nobody can really question her because she's incredibly dangerous, and the daughter of Zuras. Athena is constantly noted as being a highly skilled warrior. Her reflexes are more enhanced than any other Eternal. And unlike a majority of the other Eternals, she prefers her combat experience and weapons training before using her flashy powers. Makari is definitely part of a younger generation of Eternal. What is young in the Eternal scale? Well, he's about 20,000 years old, so yeah, a youngin'. Being a young Eternal obviously means he cracks jokes and can't sit still for too long before being anxious. Kinda like an otherwise cracking speedster. Or wait, that's all of them. All of them are like this, actually. Makari is a huge fan at running at light speeds. In ancient times, he was mistaken for being the god Mercury. See what they did there? You've probably already noticed that, but that's the pattern. Anyway, every supergroup needs a speedster, and for the Eternals, that's Makari. Zuras is no nonsense when it comes to the safety of Eternals and humans. While he doesn't seem to be particularly interested in humanity, he knows it's his job to protect them, and he fully carries that responsibility, even if he seems like a curmudgeon. But fear not, he won't let you get hurt. He might just be a grump about it afterwards. Zuras has complete mastery of all Eternal powers. He's the most powerful of the Eternals in Olympia, and their leader. Zuras also has the ability to telepathically call every Eternal on the planet, as well as initiate the ritual to become the Unimind. He's also the only one able to disband the Unimind. If you thought all Eternals were protectors, think again. Druig is Icarus's cousin and one of the most powerful polar Eternals, and is known to have a cold and cynical demeanor. He has grown fond of the ways humans torture each other in war, and uses similar methods against his own Eternal family. He also once spearheaded a ploy to find a celestial killing weapon and use it on his creators for reasons that were never really clear. Druig is a master manipulator, and in this interpretation uses solar fire as his primary form of attack, easily setting fire to other Eternals and as easily snuffing it out. Okay, that was a lot of information. So let's just tell you why we're excited for the Eternals and their future in the MCU. One of the most fascinating things about the Eternals is how their existence becomes the basis for mythologies in many different cultures. Like Makari being mistaken for the Roman god Mercury. We have a small taste of this with Thor in his standalone movies, but we believe it'll be pivotal in the upcoming film. Another thing that we are really excited about is the coming of the Celestials, and how that will affect the future of the MCU. The comics make it clear, man is just the experiment of these super beings. If this significant revelation rings true, then what repercussions will heroes, villains, and humanity have to face? Anyway, that's it for now. We hope you really enjoyed this video. And if you did, give us a like or subscribe. And thank you for watching Art Badger.